I was screaming. I was telling him to stop. It was incredibly painful. And he was acting like it was nothing.
Hello everyone and welcome back to the program. My name is Rogan. This is ThisBahamianGyal. On my platform, I do social commentary and reaction videos. I encourage my audience to have private conversations in public. So another accuser has stepped forward. This time we're about to hear this individual's voice. This is a man who has come forward to CNN in an exclusive interview to detail what he says happened several years ago with rapper Sean P. Diddy Combs. Now, this is not the first man to step forward to allege that Diddy sexually assaulted him. And this one is very graphic, so I just want you all to be prepared for that. He is not on camera. He's on camera, but he's in silhouette form. And it's just interesting in the snippet that I heard. I didn't watch it in its entirety because I wanted to watch it in real time with you guys. But it was just very disturbing. And now we're seeing this pattern of women stepping forward, men stepping forward to say that they were allegedly assaulted when they were children with Sean P. Diddy Combs. And so this is just the latest in the ongoing saga. In my previous video, you know that I said that she's now an adult, but a woman who was 13 or alleged she was 13 at the time says that she was sexually assaulted by rapper Jay-Z. And he's denied those claims, but the list just keeps getting longer and longer for P. Diddy Combs. And, you know, I still believe that, you know, an individual is innocent until proven guilty in a court of law, but it's getting really hard to ignore all of these people who are coming forward. So like I said, I did not watch it. I saw a snippet and I wanted to watch it in real time so we get my real-time reaction. So let's go.
According to your lawsuit, you were hired by a security firm to work security at one of the infamous white parties that was thrown by Sean Combs in the Hamptons. What was that experience like?
At first, he was incredibly friendly, very gracious.
So you had a friendly chat, and then according to your lawsuit, at some point later in the night, Sean Combs himself offered you a drink. This didn't come from staff or someone holding a tray of drinks. It came from him directly.
Correct. The first drink started to have some effect on me, and I just thought, wow, these are really strong drinks. It wasn't until the second drink, and it was already too late, that I realized that there was something wrong with the drinks. Sadly, Sean Combs was waiting in the wings. He was watching from some sort of vantage point. And once I was in a helpless position and he was sure that he was in a position of power, then he took advantage of the situation.
You allege that you were forcibly pushed into an SUV by Sean Combs. That act alone, according to your lawsuit, left you in considerable pain. And then once inside the vehicle, your lawsuit says plaintiff was held down by Combs, who overpowered him while he struggled to escape due to the effects of the drugs in his system. And it goes on to say that he sodomized you.
I was screaming. I was telling him to stop. It was incredibly painful. And he was acting like it was nothing. And he seemed to be disconnected from it. But it was abusive beyond belief.
All right, CNN's Elizabeth Wagmeister, who's doing really amazing reporting on this subject, is here with your exclusive. What was it like to sit down with this man?
You know, John, this was the first time that he has told anyone other than his attorneys this story. He, as you see, we concealed his identity. He filed his lawsuit back in October as a John Doe. He says that he wants to keep his anonymity because he wants to keep some semblance of his life private. But that's a difficult thing to do, to sit down and tell your story to a stranger as a journalist. So I asked him, why now? Why are you coming forward now? And he said that he did not know that there were other accusers of Sean Combs out there. He only found out from seeing news reports. And there was one report he saw that there is somebody who alleged that they were 9 years old when they say that they were abused by Sean Combs. And this John Doe that I sat down with, he said, if a 9-year-old could do it, then I could do it. And it made him feel like he wished that he spoke out before, because he could have prevented children from allegedly being abused. Now, as I said, this lawsuit was initially filed back in October of this year. So these claims are not new, but this is the first time that he sat down. In fact, John, this is the first time that any accuser of Sean Combs has sat down with the media for an interview.
I want to stop right here and say, you know, I think for a lot of people too, everybody doesn't watch YouTube or the news like that, especially if something happened, if this indeed happened and it was incredibly traumatic for him. A lot of folks would have just completely disconnected from a lot of things. So I think that's absolutely plausible that he probably wasn't aware, even though this is news everywhere. I have friends who are like, I haven't been following this stuff. I didn't know how bad it was or how deep it was, because everybody's living their own lives. So I can absolutely believe what he said, that, you know, when he heard of, you know, this young man who was 9 years old, talking about having been allegedly assaulted by Sean Combs, and he spoke out, that was the thing, that was the impetus, or that's what galvanized him to speak publicly. And she's right. This is the first time I've seen an accuser actually step forward and have this conversation. Even though his face is obscured, I do appreciate this person actually coming forward, because sometimes we hear about so many accusers and we're not hearing their voices for various reasons. Obviously, I think they will have to come and show up in court, because the accused has the right to face their accuser. So it's good to hear this conversation now, and just hearing him detail. It's crazy because he was the security guard. So the security needed security. He needed protection, allegedly, from Sean Combs for what happened. One of the things that was extremely disturbing for me to hear is when he said, and I'm just making my notes because, like I said, this is my first time watching it in real time with you guys. He says, I was screaming, telling him to stop. It was incredibly painful. It was abusive beyond belief. And how he says Sean Combs allegedly was so disconnected from it. I think it's difficult for anybody to step forward, but I think there's something completely different too when a man is sodomized by another man. I think it's incredibly difficult for men especially. And of course, I'm not, you know, giving a hierarchy here, but I'm just saying, when it's a man who is sodomized allegedly by another man, that is extremely damaging to a lot of men's psyche, to their ego. It's not easy. Let's keep listening.
Now, he says that not a day has gone by where he hasn't thought about this. He said that when something like this happens to you, which is, of course, his allegation that he was drugged and sodomized by Sean Combs back in 2007, he says that it impacts every part of your life. He says that he has not been able to carry on with relationships. He says that he did not tell his wife at the time, who he was married to when this allegedly happened to him. He hasn't told family members or coworkers. And again, that is one of the big reasons why he wants to remain anonymous.
Incredible to hear him tell this story. All right, Elizabeth Wagmeister, thank you very much. Sarah.
All right, joining us now, CNN legal analyst and criminal defense attorney Joey Jackson to discuss more about this. All right, first of all, this is a civil lawsuit. Yes. It is not part of the criminal prosecution, but in hearing this, and now that he is coming out to speak, could it be?
So we'll see. There's a lot that has to be unpacked, right? The first thing is remember, Sarah, that this was an amended complaint. Why do I say that, and why is that significant? It's significant because initially when it was filed in October, there was the indication that it happened in 2007, right? Learning, however, that P Diddy was in St. Tropez then, so it could not have happened then. So it was amended to include, right, the year after, okay? That's a problem. There was also the indication initially that, right, he wasn't married, and now we're learning he is. Why do I say that? Because every case turns on its facts. So if you're going to determine, right, civil, it's a civil case, it involves monetary damages, not criminal, you're going to assess the credibility of it. Now, attorneys for, of course, P. Diddy are going to have a field day with that, of course, because when you sit down with your lawyer, you verify. Your lawyer doesn't say, oh, that's what happened. Okay. You verify it. You vet it. You ensure that it's factually accurate. And so therefore, I think those two distinctions are going to be very important. Would you have not known that you were married at this time? Would you have not known? Should you have shared it with your spouse? Potentially not. It's embarrassing, but did you know you were married at all? Did you know where you were, when you were, etc.? So it's a question of fact, and I think it'll be vetted certainly by criminal investigators to determine whether or not it's useful, and then it'll be up to the judge to determine whether it is admissible.
I am curious about something. He told our Elizabeth Wagmeister there that he'd not told anyone about this until he spoke, I think, to his attorneys. How difficult will it be to prove this?
So what ends up happening is that, you know, there's a lot of embarrassment and a lot of shame, right? And there's a lot of sensitivity as it relates to victims. And sometimes you have victim, and it's called recent outcry information, where they'll say something to a friend, I can't believe it. That's powerful evidence. In some circumstances, there's humiliation, and they don't. And there are experts who will testify to that. On the issue of proof, however, there's the indication that a celebrity was present. That's according to this particular victim, Elizabeth doing an excellent job in that interview. But there was the issue of, hey, there's a celebrity present. Does that celebrity come forward? There's the indication that he told his supervisor, he being the victim who worked for a private security company, telling his supervisor. Will the supervisor come forward? Did anybody else know? So these are all questions of proof. And to the extent that you have corroboration, meaning it's not just you, there's other people, it's easier to establish your claim.
And speaking of this idea of shame that victims often feel, this victim has not wanted to be named. He is not named in the suit. He is still a John Doe. How long can that last? Because at some point, right, that has to change, correct?
So, yes. So, Sarah, it's up.
These are really important things that this gentleman is saying, because when you are making an accusation like this, and it's a serious one, these are very serious accusations, your dates have to be correct. Your details have to be correct. Your facts have to be lining up. And any lawyer worth his or her salt is going to rip someone like this apart, you know, and he asked the appropriate questions. You wouldn't have known that you were married at the time because, you know, I'm sure if that happened, you would definitely remember what it felt like to go home that evening. You know, what was the look on your wife's face? What were you feeling at the moment? You would have certainly remembered that you were married at the time. I know with trauma, details get really foggy, especially if someone is trying to bury certain details of their life or a traumatic event. And so things get really hazy. Listen, I'm not saying this is the same thing, but think about like when you guys are applying for jobs and you have to, and you've had like a really long career and you have to remember the dates that you worked places, which month and which day you might get it wrong just off of a simple thing. And people will be like, you don't remember when you worked at a certain place? You don't remember what year it was or what month it was? And I know that sounds so trivial, but I'm just saying time gets really foggy. But, you know, again, when you are accusing someone of a crime like this, yeah, the lawyers that you're working with, the team that you're working with, they're going to go and grill you to make sure that you know what you're talking about and that things are lining up, because all these things can be used to discredit the accuser. So what else did I have here? Again, we're hearing about the amended complaint. We heard this as well in the Jay-Z situation where his accuser didn't have him listed on her lawsuit, and then she and her lawyer amended it to include him. And so people would certainly start to say, well, why did you do that? Why did it come up later on that you now are adding this person in? With Sean P. Diddy Combs' case, this gentleman right here who's being interviewed, I forgot his name, said, you know, the accuser said that this incident happened at a white party at a certain time, and Sean Combs was in Saint-Tropez at the time. So, you know, that's a hell of an alibi. So I'm not dismissing anything that he is saying at all. I'm not. But I'm just saying, when you got to go to court, everything has to line up. And it is so very sad if this did in fact happen, because that is a horrible way to be brutalized. This story is just taking so many twists and turns, and it's just sick. It's just a web of sickness, a web of lies and a web of sickness. Let's go.
And speaking of this idea of shame that victims often feel, this victim has not wanted to be named. He is not named in the suit. He is still a John Doe. How long can that last? Because at some point, right, that has to change, correct?
So, yes. So, Sarah, it's up to the discretion of the judge. And what the judge does is a balancing test between your right to privacy, intimidation, humiliation, a number of other factors, right? To what extent could you be retaliated against, et cetera, versus the public interest. And also, right, the party you're suing certainly has an interest. And so a judge will assess various factors, weigh those factors, and make an assessment as to whether or not the John Doe continues or it ends.
Joey Jackson, that's his name, Joey Jackson. I thought he did a great job at breaking that down. So I see here it says John Doe. This John Doe is the first civil accuser to publicly speak to the media about the alleged assault by Sean Combs. Every day it seems someone new is coming out with a new claim. And that doesn't necessarily mean that they're just making things up and coming to the public. I think a lot of people are just feeling emboldened now. You know, sometimes people need the courage to step forward. Listen, I am a Law and Order watcher, love it, absolutely adore it. And you see, and you know, a lot of these things are ripped from the headlines, right? And you know, you watch those episodes and you see people who refuse to come forward when they're sexually assaulted, and then they see a little girl walk into the courtroom and is brave enough to face her attacker, and then all of a sudden you see like 3 people outside, and Finn brings them in and says, yeah, these people too are accusing this man of rape or this woman of rape or anything like that. So, you know, sometimes people just need the courage to step forward, and it's incredibly embarrassing, so humiliating. And so if this is indeed true, I feel for all of these individuals, and I would not want to be the judge deciding whether or not this person comes forward, because yes, those were excellent points that this legal expert made, which is, you know, they have to weigh whether this person could be, there could be some backlash to them, if they could, you know, be humiliated publicly, if it could be a danger to their life, a threat to their life. All those things have to be weighed. But I also believe that if someone is going to accuse someone of doing something, that the person who is being accused has the right to face that attacker and see who it is. Because if not, anybody can make an accusation about anybody, and you could be sitting saying, who is this person who's accusing me? I don't even know who this person is. Put yourself in that position. So I would not want to be the judge in this case. Anyway, guys, drop your comments down below. I'm very interested to hear what you have to say. This whole story is really sick, and Hollywood is just crumbling before our eyes, isn't it? I'm just, you know, I've always heard of like the casting couch and all the things that happen inside of Hollywood, but it's just like, it's such a massive turnoff to me just to see all these things happening. And it's not just these people who are accused, it's the web of, it's the network that allows accusers to get away with what they do. And I said in an old video too, and you can watch it, I'll link it up above here somewhere. You know, I said, I'm really not that interested in all these people who are coming out now with stories about who abused who and how they did this to that person. And it's like, where was this moxie? Where was this desire to speak up and out at the time? And I know it's frightening. I know it's scary, especially for a fella like Sean Combs, who, you know, it's so funny. Years ago, I thought this guy couldn't hurt a fly. He always seemed kind of like soft to me. When I say soft, he just seemed like he couldn't hurt a fly. And it's just like, wow, this is who you are? And another thing for me before I go is that I'm seeing so many men come forward and saying that they were being abused by P Diddy, sexually, physically, whatever. And it's like, for years I thought, you know, all those rumors about Diddy were untrue. You know, I'm not, you know, a lot of times people, when they want to insult you, they will say, oh, you're gay and all that stuff. And I just never suspected that he was in fact gay. I thought it was just a bunch of haters just trying to find something to tear him down, right? But it's like, if you are gay or you're bisexual, then be that. You know, be that. But Hollywood, and particularly the hip hop industry, is very homophobic. And so it really creates this atmosphere where a lot of rappers who are gay, who are bisexual, who are into transgender women are afraid to come out and say, this is what I'm into. I'd rather you just say this is what you're into and go live your life and do what you do and not lie to the public and lie to yourself. And in the background, you're hurting people because this is who you are, you know? This is all just very, 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 very sick to me, all of it. Anyway, drop your comments down below. Let me know what you think. If you like this video, give it a big thumbs up. Share this video with your friends and family. Subscribe to the channel if you like this type of content. And of course, if you want to keep this channel independent, you can go into the description box and you will find various ways to give. You'll also see a QR code on the screen where you can give to buy me a coffee. You can buy me a coffee. I'm sorry, I'm still thinking about all this stuff with this John Doe said. You can buy me a coffee, but the QR code will be on the screen. The link will be in the description box, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye.